Hello, hello, and thank you, Krista, for your willingness to share your story. Because, I've been doing this now for quite some time and working with patients. It never gets boring, and as you can imagine, what we're doing is so radically different. Why don't we start a little bit with just kind of talking a little bit about yourself, what you're comfortable sharing, and then kind of getting into your backstory as far as how you ended up with the issues that led to wanting to do our program.
Sure. So I'm in my early 50s, and I would say I probably, after I had my last child, I have three boys, I struggled with weight. I never struggled before, but it always had kind of been an issue. That would be my mid 30s on. Um, in the past, I've tried everything. You name it, I've tried it. Keto worked really well for me in my to mid 40s. I could tighten up my diet and lose my weight. Then menopause hit, and I noticed probably about 3 years ago, I just started gaining. And it didn't matter what I did. I could increase my exercise. I could, radically change my diet. Nothing changed. And my weight kept getting higher and higher and higher. And I was at a point, I stopped weighing at 155. And something's got to change. I'm only 5'4", so so that does make a difference, your height. And so I saw you actually on TikTok. Somebody was on TikTok doing one of those side-by-sides. And I was like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? And I looked you up. I'm in Colorado. You're in Colorado. And I thought, I'm just going to reach out and just see, because I was just desperate for something different and new to work. And it has worked fantastic for me. It has changed my life, something I'm super excited about. And I just want everybody else to know, there is hope and they're not alone, and they changed.
Totally. So for you, what were like the kind of like some of the methods for weight loss that you tried before in the past?
Well, let's see. I did the HCG diet way back. What was that? I don't even know. That was my late 30s, I believe. I did that. It worked. I gained the weight back, but it worked. Let's see. I did Jenny Craig. I did that several times. It worked. Then
In the short term, right? Like you lost the weight.
yes, everything was short term. Keto, actually, I had the most success with doing the keto diet for long term. I did that probably for 6 years, pretty strict. And that worked well for me until menopause started hitting. And then once the weight gain started coming on, I just literally could not lose an ounce, not 1 ounce.
So let's talk about the keto, because what you're saying is interesting. That I want to dig into that. So when you say keto was easier for you, or it worked for you, and it sounds like you did it for a long time. Most people, by the way, can't stick to a keto diet for that long, and then that's just the reality of it, which is why we don't recommend keto for more than a couple months. But I do want to dig into that because I'm curious. When you say it worked for you for 6 years, I'm assuming what you also mean is that it was easier for you to lose the weight in that method than the other methods. Is that what you're saying? And then how so? What do you feel like was easier about it for you?
Yes, I think with the keto, when I did it for such a long period of time, I just had success because I didn't feel, yes, I didn't eat bread and pasta and those things, but I made my own bread. I got into all that. So I didn't feel like I was missing anything, and increasing the fat, just, it worked for me and my body. That during that time just worked well for me.
Yeah. Okay. Do you feel like it was by being keto compared to the other methods where you obviously were having some carbohydrates? Did you notice differences in your hunger comparatively to the other methods?
Yes, with keto, the hunger kind of went away for me. And So in the moment, when I would go on vacation or something, I literally would gain 7 to 10 pounds being gone for 5 to 6 days because I would eat the carbs. Carbohydrates, so people do need to understand that if they choose that route.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because, as you know, doing my program now, you've learned about metabolic flexibility and being fat adapted, and there's some similarity between that. What we do in keto is just keto for most people, like they can't sustain it. But you noticed, and anybody who does keto long term does notice. Usually, it's easier to maintain that caloric deficit necessary for weight loss because this is like this fuel debate, and you see people on my side of the spectrum that say calories don't matter, it's all about hormones. And I used to be one of those people, and now my opinion is starting to shift to where maybe it is a lot more about calories in terms of losing the weight, that you got to be in a deficit, and it doesn't matter how you get in the deficit. And I'm willing at this point, because there's some really strong literature that's starting to persuade some of my understanding. But even though I'm even willing to admit that it is that caloric deficit, but I still feel strongly, and that's why I asked that question. It's like, okay, even if that's the case, when you are doing it in this approach from fasting keto, it's easier to get into the caloric deficit, right? Because you're not as hungry. You feel full longer, and there's also the effects on the metabolism. So let's fast forward now with our protocol, with the flow protocol. For you, when you first heard about fasting for 48 hours every single week, what was your initial thought?
Well, I was scared to death, but can I do it? Incidentally, I had done one time, 6-day water fast, which was brutal. I was scared because I had tried that in the past.
Yeah.
But I mean, the medication being a tool, it turned off. And I tried to tell people, you don't understand what the medication does. You don't think about food. You can do it. You can do the fast. It's easy peasy, and now my body, now being off the meds, I still fast. I only do 24 hours now in the lifestyle, but I can do it. And it's not a big deal, but I was scared in the beginning.
Yeah, no, and I think any normal person actually, it's actually the joke I make with people is when they're not scared, I'm like, oh, what's wrong with this person, right? Because I say that as a joke. They're wild if they think this. Let's do this. So no, I think in this is very outside the box, right? A lot of the most fasting experts would say 36, 48 at the most once a month, and that's aggressive. So certainly once a week is the most aggressive. But when we look at weight loss resistance and obesity, whether you're obese or whether you just have a difficult time maintaining weight loss, we have to focus on insulin resistance, inflammation, metabolic flexibility, and that's what the fasting does. And did you do yours with the AOD as well?
I did. In the beginning, I did one AOD in the morning. And then I think probably a little past halfway, I called you and I said, I want more AOD. So then on my fasting days, I would do AOD in the morning and in the evening.
And what did you notice? What were you liking so much about the AOD?
And it's not necessarily it's hard to pinpoint, was it the AOD? Mentally to me, it was the AOD. The AOD, taking it twice a day during the fasting just kind of gave me just that little extra push. Instead of losing 1.5 pounds, maybe I lost 2 pounds. That's just kind of what I saw for myself.
Big push. Yeah, and AOD is so powerful at mobilizing body fat. And so pairing it with fasting like you did definitely accelerates the results. What would you say as far as anybody who's learn about my program, because we still really are, and I haven't seen a lot of other clinics talk about using them holistically, which is still wild to me. So we're still the only person. But for anybody who came across us because they want to wean off meds, but maybe they're scared like you were in the beginning, what would you say to them?
So do you mean coming off the meds now that I'm in the lifestyle?
No, like somebody who's come across this program and they want to do it because of that idea of being able to wean off, but they're afraid of the idea of being able to fast for this that long the time, for that frequently. Like, what could you say to maybe calm their nerves now that you've done it yourself?
Yeah, so I chose to do it. I chose my fasting days when I was the most busy. So I would do it during working days. So I work Monday through Wednesdays. And so I would start Sunday nights, and I was busy all day, Mondays and Tuesdays. So it really was fairly easy. Now, if I wasn't working, I don't know what that would look like, because I would think, just at least initially in the beginning, you need to be busy. If you're just sitting around, it mentally, it's a mental thing, in my opinion. For me, it was just breaking through that barrier with the medication, with the tirzepatide. It just took away the food chatter. I know you say that, but it really takes away the food chatter. It's very difficult to explain. You just don't have it.
I know. And that's why, like, I mean, obviously that's where the secret sauce comes from, the AOD, the tirzepatide. People out there are taking these medications and they don't have the structure of the program. And this is why the literature is so clear on people regaining weight. How long has it been now that you've been at your weight loss goal?
So I was looking at that. I started July 24th was like my when I started the tirzepatide, and I hit my goal weight at week 17. It took me 17 weeks to hit my goal weight. And then, like you said, try to get 2 pounds below. So I did do that, and that took me another week. It took me actually the week after Thanksgiving is when I hit my lowest weight, which was quite surprising, just because I indulged on Thanksgiving. I ate whatever I wanted, and then the next time I got on the scales, I was actually lower, which was just fascinating. It's just fascinating how this fasting works. It just works.
Feast and flourish. I can't stress that enough. Super excited. So it's been 2 months now. You've been living the lifestyle. Let's end on that note. What is it like now in terms of what you have? Because before you've never even been able to maintain the weight loss, but at least in the struggle of trying to maintain it for however long you did before, and you notice you eventually lose that battle, how much easier is it now to maintain your weight now?
It has been incredibly easy. I honestly was surprised. I'm still fast. I'm not doing the 48 hours anymore. I'm in the lifestyle. I am at I feel comfortable at 124 hours during the week.
So you're doing 124 per week?
Yes, 124 per week, and I am maintaining. I'm just now 1 pound. I've settled at 1 pound below goal, which, I mean, I'm below my goal. I can't ask for anything else. It's wonderful. I eat what I want to eat, and I just really don't have any weight fluctuations now. And I'm not a chronic wearer. I was a chronic wearer before. I'm not anymore.
It's so awesome. And I think what people, it's this controversial debate, calories and hormones. And, I'm willing to say it is all about calories, but getting into that calorie deficit is what I'm arguing is so much easier when you optimize your hormones, because you're at the point now where you're insulin sensitive, you're metabolically flexible, your inflammation is lower, so you can listen to your body. And you can eat when you're hungry, and you don't eat when you're not hungry. And if you do overeat, you can just go fast it off, literally. And it's so much easier to maintain that balance. And that's what I want everybody to hear out there. So thank you so much for sharing this. And I'd love to do an update with you. I think people will probably say, oh, it's only been 2 months. So we'll definitely do an update, maybe add it to this one, say 6 months later, if you're up for it.
Of course.
And just to help people out see that this is a real deal. So thank you so much, Krista.
Of course.